I hate this series so much. I mean, I knew it was going to be bad. I did not know it was going to feel like such a time suck in the worst possible sense. Another book by Sarah J. Maas that did not need to be such a colossal piece of crap. Filler. That's all this book is. That's all this series is filler. And it's why I hate it. There are elements in here that have the potential for great story, but every single time, those elements are buried in needless romantic subplot that takes up 3/4 or more of a book that barely had an actual plot to begin with. And this one I was excited for. It was Nesta's story. Her connection with Cassian and everything that came of her trauma from the last battle in Aquawar hinted at in A Court of Frost and Starlight. Now, there are certain moments in here where she explains how the death of her father is the reason she blames herself, hates herself, and has resorted to whoring herself out to losers by moonlight just to keep the dark powers of the cauldron at bay. But if there was ever a more useless book between the love sickness, the training, the whisper of direction that we get, which is called the Dread Trove, I don't want to read it. And I read this book pretty quickly, actually. And thankfully, I didn't have to read it a second time because there was nothing to track. The only time I got caught off guard was the blood right at the end as a sort of wrap up because all of the focus had been on the Valkyrie and the Dread Trove and all these other cool plot points that, once again, nothing was really done with. Whatever. Obviously, people love this book for the love story, which is really confusing because there is no love in these stories. It's sex and animalistic primal urges, the level of possession which could make for a more promising horror series than anything else. This book starts with Cassian going to fetch Nesta because Farah Darling has had enough of her acting out. Nesta is more coerced into staying at the house to train with Cassian, Illyrian style, so she can get a better handle on her own powers. She makes some friends along the way. There's Gwyn from the library Nesta is helping to organize, Emery in the Windhaven camp, a female Illyrian, and House who has no real name but loves to provide Nesta all the smutty novels she needs when she's not arguing with Cassian about how useless they are. I think I can vouch for Cassian on this one. Smut rots your brain. Anyway, the training is really what takes up the better part of the story. It's where Cassian is, after all. We have to build up the tension through all that touching. It doesn't take long for him to decide to fuck her, and in any other circumstance, I might have held on to the regard that I originally had for Cassian. But it was immediately tossed out as soon as he chooses to settle for being Nesta's whore, since that's the only thing she expresses she seems to want from him. And of course later she debates this, and she's hurt by the fact that he's just okay with this. She's bothered by it, but she doesn't believe in the whole mate thing until it's convenient enough for them at the end. I guess the whole arc she had regarding her powers couldn't really happen without her realizing that they belong together. But Prythian is basically under the sort of kind of rule of one of the immortal queens, the good one. I think I went over that in my last video. There is this bad immortal queen called Brian, whatever, had gone into the cauldron in an attempt to be made into a fae, and instead of suffering the same gorgeous, powerful, unattainable fate as the three sisters we've come to know, she is instead transformed into this bitter old crone. She has a crown, see? A crown from the Dread Trove, which is one of 3 objects that can bring the dead to life and give one all these immortal powers, blah blah blah. Turns out the lady's really just after the Fountain of Youth. But I guess she never heard of Juan Ponce de Leon. These guys set out to get these possessions first before she collects all 3, or 4. They just know about the 3, or there's some mystery surrounding the 4th. I hear that comes in handy for the Crescent City book. No, I am not reading that series next. I can only take so much. Nesta comes by the mask after some merman dude tried to rape and eat her. I'm really concerned about the number of times she was almost raped in here. It's actually kind of sickening. Like, I get that the allure of these books is how desirable the characters are and how much every guy wants to screw them, like sex equals status or respect in here, but the pick-me attitude has to stop at SA. Like, what are you doing? You need therapy at this point. We should not be fetishizing this crap. It's gross. Nesta later finds the harp, which she finds in the prison where one of Cassian's old enemies is released for the briefest of moments just to...
He starts monologuing.
relieve us from all the sexual tension and the actual plot, you know, just for a moment. Nothing happens, don't worry. He monologues for a bit before getting back into his cage. There's also a rumor that a sword Amarantha possessed had been made or infused with powers from the cauldron, and she tossed it into the sea because it would not abide by her. Nesta then imbues a sword with her powers, and they find out that she could, if she wanted to, really kind of create her own Dread Trove and just take over Prythian. This sets up a partial, needless subplot that lasts only a few chapters, enough for Nesta to feel betrayed because nobody told her, and then she betrays Farah's inevitable death via childbirth out of spite. But I guess this does actually contribute something. Nesta ends up having a reflective moment with Cassian about how bitter she is and how she keeps hurting those close and doesn't actually want to. It is part of her defense system, but it's enough for her to recognize that what she's doing and how it's affecting others. So there was an arc in here for her, which I do appreciate. But I want to add, that's the minimum for any story, especially a character-centric one. Nesta's actually been made into a very powerful woman, very tortured. We don't really know why, and we know why from ACOWAR, but we still don't know why she was such a bitter prune in the other books. My best guess is it's her relationship with her mother, which is hinted at in here, and apparently it wasn't all that great. For a Nesta story, this could have been touched on a little bit more. Nesta's powers once again become this ploy. They come in handy when she's saving Cassian from the immortal queen, who she just obliterates, and then brings back Farah for the second time after she almost dies in childbirth. It's here Nesta sort of gives her powers back, I guess, to the mother, the cauldron, to trade for her sister's life. And aside from that, nothing really happens. Once again, my thoughts on this series have not changed after reading it. In fact, it's only reinforced the theory I had going into this little experiment. It's all about the sex. Plot could be something, there are more than enough characters to create a Lucasfilm production, and the potential for great world building is thrown out for the sake of titillation and who gets with who. I don't care about what these people are wearing, but every outfit has to be documented like they're walking down the runway of America's Next Top Model. But I want to know how this world works. How did it get to be this way? What keeps it functioning? I want characters with more personality than a washboard, and I think the politics in this book are so blasé, and they're made that way so they only have to go as deep as dancing with Eris as a ploy or talking to Tarquin, just so the plot can move forward a little bit. But for the book series that is set up like a chess game, I'm only seeing checkers, which is a shame. I think the reason this series took off like it did, aside from tailing after Throne of Glass, is partially due to the infantilism that is set up in here, parading as Beauty and the Beast syndrome. But really, it's about being emotionally enmeshed with guys so much that they are obligated via emotions to stay with their mates, instead of actually comparing personalities or traits. The guys are all the same in here, and that's about as much as the girls have to offer. The guys are all a bunch of arrogant, cocky assholes that are secretly lovable teddy bears, but would tear the world apart for you if they could. It's just a shame that they never actually get the chance to show their strengths because their Mary Sue counterparts have bested these guys at their own game as strong, powerful females without really having to prove anything, except that once made from the cauldron, Prithian would automatically turn into a matriarchy with the guys as their lowly dog servants to give them everything they want and can supply emotionally. The series does nothing for maturity when it comes to relationships, and that's why I can't in good conscience call it a romance series. Maybe some of her other books do get better. I have heard good things about Crescent City in regards to world building, but I think it's just going to be another failed setup. Maybe if I've recovered enough from this, I'll give it a shot, but right now, I want to read something else. Which is why I'm quitting YouTube. I could keep making videos complaining about everything that's wrong with literature today, how bland everything is, and how things are spiraling. When I first started this channel, these conversations weren't commonplace or regular. They were usually shrugged off as cynicism and thrown under the rug. Now, there are practically documentaries online discussing everything that I'm concerned about with the market and content. The quality of their videos and the information they have to offer is, well, it's better, and I'm okay with that. The truth is, I do love books. I love reading. I love making these snappy videos where I can let my snarky personality shine. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been more than fun. I mean, I didn't expect to find such a great community of people who are worried about the same things I was and wanted better for it. It gives me a lot of hope. But I'm a writer first, YouTuber second. I thought I could do both, and instead I find I'm struggling just to find the time to make these videos, and my heart's just not in it. I haven't been able to write anything since January, and I miss it. This decision is also in part for my mental health. Technology has kind of taken over everything, and I'm finding myself pull away more and more just out of spite, because the only thing anyone seems to want from me anymore is attention, money, or data. I feel like I'm being drawn and quartered for the sake of dollars and ratings, and as much fun as YouTube is, it also has its fair share of problems. The joy that I used to get from reading just to read, or the bliss I got from finishing a book I wrote, has been overcome by anxiety, perfectionism, and cynicism. There is good to be had in life too, but I wanted to at least finish the ACOTAR series for you guys before I left. This book just did me in. Apologies to all my new subscribers, and to everyone who has been with me on this journey. You have my deepest thanks for your support. I won't forget you. Maybe I'll see you from the bookshelf of a Barnes & Noble someday. Thanks again for everything.